On January 13, 2022, the palace confirmed that Prince Andrew would no longer use the style His Royal Highness in any official capacity, and that his military affiliations and royal patronages had been returned to the crown. This was not merely a public relations exercise. It was the clearest systemic confirmation the modern monarchy had delivered in decades that the principle of duty before self had been fundamentally violated. A line that had held for generations had been crossed, and the consequence was swift, absolute, and visible. What followed would not be a singular explosion, but a slow, calculated gravitational shift that exposed a deeper truth about loyalty, hierarchy, and tradition. It was the moment two daughters, raised inside the very structure of protocol and expectation, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, recalibrated their loyalties under the cold, harsh light of consequence. Their steady, undeniable move toward the orbit of the future king, Prince William, and their increasing distance from the exiled path of Prince Harry was not a mood, a moment of pique, or a petty disagreement. It was a forensic pattern that revealed the moral truth many had suspected, but few in the mainstream media dared say out loud. The discerning viewer will recognize that this shift was not shouted. It was telegraphed. It was demonstrated through invitations accepted and declined, through photographs that included and excluded, through corridors walked in step with the clear heirs rather than the self-proclaimed exiles. Every small signal, every subtle gesture carried the same profound, non-negotiable message. Respect for the institution that survives its scandals precisely because it honors principles larger than any single person. This is how the system renders its verdict. This is how justice is delivered with dignified authority. The violation and the systemic verdict records show that when Andrew's roles were removed, a new gravitational field formed around the immutable core of the monarchy's future. The king, the Princess of Wales, and the heir apparent who, as all serious observers could see, was now shaping the crown's public and structural boundaries. Within that field, the choice of the cousins became the ultimate barometer of who understood the price of service and who did not. To understand the dignity of the York sisters' choice, one must first establish the baseline. Before the exile's departure, the cousins' relationship with Prince Harry was warm, rooted in shared grief and childhood bonds. They were often portrayed as the last bridge to the palace, the silent loyalists still offering grace and contact. But the monarchy is not a personal club. It is a structure built on duty and decorum. Friends, if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, and it keeps our little circle growing. Thank you. All right, let's go back to what happened. When Harry chose to challenge the very foundations of the family business, he forced a choice upon those closest to him. Ambiguity is the enemy of truth. The cousins' actions destroyed that ambiguity. The timeline reveals a crucial distinction. When the Prince and Princess of Wales began to visibly define the future of the crown through protocol and quiet service, the York sisters began to appear more frequently in their company. It was a silent endorsement, a profound statement that the future lay with tradition and restraint, not with complaint and public betrayal. Photographs from significant family gatherings, the Platinum Jubilee, the late Queen's final Christmas, and later the King's coronation, documented a pattern. While the transgressors were marginalized, placed far from the core, or sometimes entirely absent, the York sisters were consistently present, often positioned strategically near William and Catherine. This was not accidental. In the world of the palace, placement is protocol, and protocol is power. It signaled to the world that when the institution was under stress, these cousins chose to align with the core values: honor, service, and the future king. The discerning viewer will also note the subtle shift in public language weaponization. Those who noticed this early, who trusted their instincts about the transgressor's pattern of demanding respect, without providing duty, have been vindicated. The refusal of the cousins to be drawn into the exile's narrative was a powerful silent counter-argument. They declined the invitations to public drama and instead accepted the invitation to decorum. The prosecutorial case, a pattern of disrespect. When we connect the three moments, the initial departure, the narrative challenges levied from abroad, and the cousins' quiet realignment, a clear pattern emerges. This was not a series of mistakes by the transgressors, but a deliberate pattern of arrogance and calculation. Consider what this reveals about the transgression. The exile attempted to use the family bonds, including the cousins' loyalty, as leverage against the institution. The choice made by Beatrice and Eugenie proved that institution is stronger than individual tie. The sisters recognized that the attack on the crown was an attack on tradition, on the very lineage that afforded them their own status. They saw the warning signs that others dismissed as mere family squabbling. Now we understand why. Records show that every gesture of grace offered by the palace, the invitation to return, the retention of certain privileges, was refused or met with new public disrespect. The sisters' actions became the mirror reflecting this choice. Had the transgressors shown humility and returned to service, the cousins would have maintained their bridge. But as the arrogance mounted, the cousins' public appearance with the heir mounted in parallel, confirming the natural erosion of the relationship. The true significance became clear only when we contrast the behavioral contradictions. The exile chose financial independence and celebrity. The sisters chose to maintain the quiet, often thankless service required to uphold the institution, often taking on roles that received minimal public applause. The transgressor believed that their fame was the new currency of the monarchy. The cousins quietly confirmed that the currency remains duty and decorum. The choice of Prince William and Catherine has been vindicated by this alignment. Their steady, uncomplaining approach, their refusal to engage in the public spectacle, was consistently undermined by the exiles, yet they maintained restraint. The sisters' shift was an acknowledgement that the future king and queen were the only anchors holding the structure during a period of unprecedented strain. Their quiet support solidified the consensus. The monarchy operates on a principle of merit based on service, not entitlement based on complaint. Friends, if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, and it keeps our little circle growing. Thank you. All right, let's go back to what happened. The systematic collapse and public judgment. The turning point was not a dramatic confrontation. It was the exact moment sympathy became public judgment. This systematic collapse began when the public, and the cousins' actions helped illustrate this, recognized that the narrative of betrayal was not one-sided. The quantified fall, the polls that dropped, the headline tones that shifted, was merely the external reflection of a family system delivering its own internal verdict. The ultimate isolation of the exile was not imposed by the king. It was the natural consequence of his own choices. The most painful aspect of this consequence was the sisters going silent. They did not need to denounce, they simply stopped appearing. They withdrew their visible dignity and support. According to published accounts, PR attempts by the transgressors that attempted to portray the cousins as still being in their camp were subtly but firmly rebutted by the cousins' subsequent protocol. An invitation to a private event abroad could not outweigh the photographic evidence of their presence at a key tradition event with William. This was the failure of narrative control. The lie of continued unity could not withstand the forensic evidence of who they were standing with when it mattered. The critical element here is that the audience must see the transgressor chose their fate, preserving the necessary just world belief system. The cousins' clear, dignified alignment made this undeniable. They demonstrated that there was a path of grace available, the path of service and humility, but the transgressors' pride prevented them from taking it. They were not victims, they were self-imposed exiles, and the cousins' actions were the system's quiet endorsement of the separation. What many had suspected was confirmed when the arrogance met its natural boundary, the institutional desire for self-preservation. The cousins are intrinsically linked to the monarchy's continuity. Their choice demonstrated that blood ties cannot overcome the foundational law of duty. Their public acknowledgement of the new hierarchy was the ultimate humiliation for the transgressors, who had sought to position themselves as superior judges of the system they had willingly abandoned. The vindication cascade, exposing the core pattern. What becomes clear when examining the instances of invitations accepted by the sisters to William's events, their visible decorum during moments of national service, and their increasing proximity to the future king, is not a series of social mistakes, but a deliberate pattern of manipulation that was exposed by the institutional truth. The core pattern is this: the exile sought to weaponize the royal family's emotional capacity against its institutional dignity. He attempted to frame the choice as one of personal loyalty versus institutional coldness. The cousins' actions proved this framing was false. They proved that true loyalty is not to an individual's drama, but to the duty that binds them all. A closer examination of the timeline reveals that the constant public complaints were not cries for help, but demands for an unsustainable level of control and privilege without the corresponding service. The sisters, having grown up under the constant scrutiny of the press and the immense pressure of their own father's disgrace, understood the rules of the house implicitly. They understood that respect cannot be demanded. It is earned through humility and service. The moral law violated is explicit. The crown does not serve individuals. Individuals serve the crown. This is not tradition for tradition's sake. This is the accumulated wisdom of centuries designed to protect the monarchy from the whims of personal ego. The transgressor sought to turn a sacred trust into a celebrity platform. The cousins' quiet pivot was the system's firm rebuttal. The evidence clearly indicates that the sisters knew their public appearances were sending a message. They were not merely showing up. They were taking a visible side in a constitutional debate masquerading as a family rift. They chose the side of dignity and protocol. This brings us to the moment of tribal vindication. Those who questioned the transgressors' motives from the beginning, who trusted their instincts about the self-serving behavior, who saw the warning signs that others dismissed as mere media jealousy or worse, have been vindicated by the unfolding of events. The sisters' choice, their public honoring of the future king, was the ultimate proof that the original suspicions were justified. You were right. Your suspicions were justified. You saw what others missed. Closure. The cost of arrogance and the incomplete end. The quiet isolation of the exile, the loss of the intimate foundational support from his cousins, demonstrates that institutions endure because they honor principles larger than any individual. Arrogance, when it challenges the foundations of duty and tradition, will always meet the same consequence: erosion of status and ultimate judgment. The mask finally fell, not through a dramatic confrontation, but through the quiet unraveling of their most intimate family alliances. The restored order is found in the actions of the York sisters. Publicly, the York sisters appear beside William, solidifying the unity of the core working family. They are the visible evidence that the system found its new equilibrium. However, the final chapter is not yet fully written. The system delivers its institutional verdict, but the private cost remains. The draft confirms that privately, the bond with Harry continues in its quiet, selective way. The data you were given paints a clear picture. Harry understands the significance of the cousins' alignment. He respects their choices. He carries the emotional weight of estrangement, and yet he remains open to future healing. The question that remains, the thread deliberately left unresolved, is whether the transgressor will ever fully comprehend the fundamental moral law that was violated. Will the lesson of humility ever penetrate the self-imposed isolation? Will the offer of grace be accepted when it is offered without precondition? Only time will reveal whether the distance is permanent, or whether a shared history can eventually overpower the current division. The full accounting may take years. These observations are drawn from public records, observable behavior, and documented events. Viewers are encouraged to verify independently and form their own conclusions. The truth, as always, reveals itself to those patient enough to observe. And if you love royal surprises, click on the video on your screen. That's the next chapter, and you won't believe what they did.